In this PowerPoint presentation, we are going to be talking about unit action plans. The unit action plans are developed from the information developed in the strategic analysis and then the strategic implementation plan. Strategy implementation is based upon following the directional strategies of the organization, the adaptive strategies that have been identified during the analysis process, the market entry strategies that have also been identified during the analysis process, and the competitive strategies. Following the analysis and strategy formulation, the value-added service deliveries and the subsequent value-adding support strategies are considered and identified in order to begin the unit action planning in order to implement the suggestions and recommendations that have come about as a result of the situational analysis, the strategy formulation, and now the final aspect of strategy implementation. There are two parts to the strategic implementation plan. The first part is developing the action plan, and the second half is the development of the strategic control plan. In this class, we will be discussing the development of the action plan, and the development of the strategic control plan will be covered in the next class. Developing action plans involves identifying specific objectives to achieve the outcome of the plan, identify measurements that can quantify the deliverables for the objectives, provide an evaluation of the objectives and the actions that are being taken to obtain the objectives, and finally to identify the clear action plan to obtain the objectives. The steps of action planning involve: number one, stating the unit objective clearly and in action terms. Number two, identify specifically the actions to be taken in order to achieve the unit objective. Third, identify the completion time to complete the objective. Fourth, to calculate revenue and cost to obtaining the objective. Fifth, to assign responsibility as to who is going to be responsible for the outcome of this objective and for tracking the action associated with this objective. And finally, to develop a budget for this action. When identifying the actions to be taken, it would be helpful to also add the estimated completion time for each of the portions of the actions to be taken, so that when you add up the total amount of time for each of the actions that are to be taken in completing the objective, the estimated time equals the amount of time identified for each of the steps within the actions to be taken for the unit objective. The calculating of revenue and costs can be broken into each of the different actions that need to be taken to achieve the objective, or can be rolled up into the revenue and expense columns. You may find reviewing your finance course and the information within the finance course will be helpful in performing this part of the action planning. Although there may be different people assigned to different areas of responsibility within the completion of this unit action, it is necessary to have at least one lead person who is identified as the go-to person for an understanding of all aspects of this unit action objective. all financial impacts need to be associated to budgets so that there is additional quantifiable data to assess the outcome of the objective. Some objectives that may be considered in identifying unit action plan objectives would be financial objectives, objectives for patients, service delivery items, internal development of new objectives, and learning and growth objectives for company or organizational personnel. These are suggested objectives, and of course there may be other objectives that you will want to focus on as you consider the value-added services and support services and the objectives that are required in order to actualize the outcome that has been identified by your strategic plan.